Hello. Thank you for joining me once again. I am continuing the reading of The Children of the Law of One and the Lost Teachings of Atlantis by Jon Peniel. We are in chapter 19, part 2. Okay, and we are at the part of the vibratory nature of the universe on page 281. Thank you for everyone who is listening along, those that are returning, those that are here for the first time. Thank you and welcome. Please pick up the book for yourself, pass it on to another. The information is for your benefit. Okay, without further ado, let's see what they have to say. The vibratory nature of the universe. Everything in the universe is vibrating. Even light is vibrating. Different frequencies of vibration give us the different colors, just like different frequencies of vibration gives us the different notes in an octave of sound. The so-called 5 physical senses, touch, smell, hearing, taste, and sight, are all biological senses that, for the most part, detect vibration in different ways. While smell doesn't directly sense a vibration, it is directly sensing physical objects in the air that have different vibrational parameters. Each sense perceives vibration with specific bands, with specific limited frequency bands. For example, through the sense of hearing, most people perceive vibrational frequencies in the 20 to 20,000 cycles per second range. We call that sound. The eyes pick up much faster vibrations. That we call light. But these 5 biological sensors we use only pick up a very, very small part of the infinite vibrational frequency spectrum. There are other frequency bands that the 5 senses cannot perceive, which puts a big hole in our information about what is really there. And for most people, this is very limited data from the 5 sensors is the only thing that allows them to be in touch with the world around them. We are, for the most part, virtually blind in this universe. Humans have built machines that pick up some vibrations we can't with our 5 senses. These machines translate what they pick up into the range that we can get with one of our senses. For instance, the eyes don't pick up on X-rays. They only see the slower vibrating visible light range. So we made X-ray machines that take pictures to show us the results of using the X-rays on a film that we can see with visible light. Can you imagine being able to see such things as X-rays and gamma rays all the time? Radio waves are also in a vibrational frequency band that is not within the range of any of our senses. The circuitry in a radio or TV changes the vibrations to frequencies of vibrations our senses of sight and hearing can perceive. There are many other things that we do not normally perceive, but all of these things and much, much more are available for us to perceive when we transcend the limits of our separate self. Illusions. Because of my early fascination with such things, I spent a great deal of time with Vishnu, bugging him with all the unanswered questions from my earlier fascinations with metaphysics and science. I always hear references to life being an illusion, or what we are perceiving is actually an illusion. Does that have to do with our limited senses? Life being an illusion is more a question, I think I'll let you say for Zain. But I can answer you about sensory perception illusions. In part because of the limitations of our senses, much of what we perceive is an illusion. A table, for instance, is not what it seems to us. In moments of higher consciousness, I have seen what looks like a crawling or vibration in wood or stone. Is that what you mean? It is part of what I mean. You may be seeing the light of the molecules of the object or the auric vibrations. But I would need to know more specifics of your perceptions, which we'll discuss later perhaps. To give you an easier to understand example of obvious illusions, consider the modern invention of television and the pictures you see in it. The pictures we see are not pictures at all, but many individual lines of parts of the picture, flashing at us one at a time. They start at the top or bottom of the screen and go to the other end. But these lines appear faster than our human perception can process, so we don't see them as individual lines being flashed one at a time. Instead, the many lines seem to be there all the time, making whole pictures. Movies are similar. As many as 30 still pictures are being flashed in 1 second. We see it as a seamless presentation and have the illusion that people and things on the screen are moving, but they aren't. Certain animals with better perceptions just see the lines on a TV or the still pictures flashing during a movie. That is just one of many examples. But there are even more far reaching illusions about life and the world around us. Even the TV set is not really what it seems to us. The true reality beyond our perceptions. Even the most solid physical objects are but atoms and the parts energy they are composed of, vibrating at various rates in various arrangements. These vibratory rates and arrangements of atoms are perceived by us through one or more of the very limited five senses of an earthly human body. We then process this sensory information and, in our limited consciousness, perceive these atom groups as the things that make up the world we live in, the things that are all around us. TVs, cars, carpets, skin, air, you name it. What we think all these things are is the result of the wrapped assumptions our brain makes. The assumptions being based on the very limited data we get from our senses about a certain arrangement of frequency of vibrations of atoms. And atoms are just a building block of the same one thing, the stuff of the universe. Thus, everything we think we see is really just an illusion, not its true form, just a conceptual form created by our brain. We put together an image or idea of what we think we are perceiving by virtue of our programming, expectations, experiences, etc., manipulating the bits of information we get from our highly limited senses. When you see the movement or vibration in a solid object, like you were just talking about, whatever it is you are seeing is because your consciousness is expanding beyond its limitations, and you are glimpsing a bit more of reality. So, our consciousness and our limited senses really create a perceptual a perceptual handicap. It's even worse than that, Peniel. We are already starting with the great handicap of perceiving such a small part of the world around us. Then, to make matters worse, we process that information through the filters of our emotions and preconceptions. This all leaves us with a very inaccurate illusion of reality. And just a little change in the frequency of the vibration of atoms, how fast or slow they vibrate, in a molecule, group of atoms, can completely change our perception of what it is. For example, we know the slower vibrating molecules of H2O as ice, a solid. As the frequency of vibration increases, we know them as water, a liquid. Faster still, as steam. Faster yet, as hydrogen and oxygen gas. Then where? I don't know. As vibratory frequency increases, a more etheric quality develops. Something may even seem to vanish like steam, but nothing is ever lost in the universe. It just changes form. Sometimes that apparent form is changed by atoms joining groups, molecules, or what I like to call atomic cults. Author's note, no relation to poison, gas cults. But regardless of how they are arranged or how they appear, the true reality of it all is that it's always the same one energy vibrating at different frequencies. Orbital life, the relationship patterns of the universe. We discuss some aspects of solar system relationships in this chapter on soulmates. And while some of the material below is somewhat repeated, this was a continuation of the above conversation with Vishnu. And it's pertinent in this chapter in its metaphysical sense. Look into outer space, you find countless stars, suns like the star of the solar system, with planets of their own orbit, constantly moving, vibrating. They follow the same universal laws of all, as does the atom, the microcosmic solar system. Indeed, anywhere we look in life, be it outer space or inner space, everything is either atoms or solar system. They are like octaves of the same thing, micro and macro cosmos. There is nothing else. What is a building? A tree? They and anything else that seems to be something else are but an assembly of atoms and solar systems. I can't emphasize the significance of this. It is one of the most important facts there is, and understanding its full meaning is one of the great keys to understanding the universe and our lives. What are these other great keys? The next great key can also be seen with atoms and solar systems. It is their orbital patterns, their orbital relationship. It is the one primary pattern that exists in the universe. It pervades everything, and all else is built upon it. Peniel, it is what our human male and female relationships are based on. It is what makes soulmates soulmates. But aren't orbits separate things amongst separate solar systems or atoms? How could it be what everything in the universe is built upon? And how could it be what human relationships are based on. Look into space at night. Each shining star you see is either a sun, an object radiating light that is surrounded by or orbiting by planets, or a planet giving off light reflected from the light of a star. Study what scientists have discovered about the solid objects that surround us: water, trees, buildings, stones, earth, plants, human bodies. They are all made of atoms. And what are atoms? Microscopic stars being orbited by planets, but very tiny and very, very rapidly. They are an octave of the stars and our own solar system. Read the ancient texts. We have had its knowledge long before the ignorant masses discovered that the earth wasn't flat. Before they discovered that the earth wasn't the center of the universe. Before they discovered that the earth revolved around the sun, rather than what they previously thought, that the sun revolved around the earth. Before they discovered atoms. Soon they will discover more and more. Consider, what if everything is orbiting something else? What if, when you get smaller than atoms and bigger than solar systems, the same or similar circular orbital pattern is found? It does, in some way or another. Even though they haven't discovered it yet, authors note, much of this has recently been discovered by modern science. What if it goes on infinitely, like a never-ending spiral? It must. It is the pattern of creation, of universal spirit. Excuse me. If you contemplate it for a while, the pattern of an atom or solar system is, in a sense, the only reality. It is the primary form of life in the universe. This pattern is the basis of the building blocks of our illusions. And what is it comprised of? This amazing, all-pervasive pattern consists of individual parts functioning as one. This oneness is achieved by virtue of the nature of the polarities of the individual parts, plus and minus, male and female. Electrons of an atom are like the planets of a solar system. They are oppositely charged, the opposite sex, to the nucleus of an atom, and they are attracted to each other, just as the planets and sun of a solar system are. The polarized parts flow together in a particular way that is dictated by universal law. The pattern is orbital because of the nature of polarized relationships in space. There is always a center, a central sphere that flows out energy and attracts, and that central object is surrounded by objects that are attracted to and attached themselves to the center object. In the case of the solar system, the sun is the center that all the planets revolve around. In the case of the atom, the nucleus is the center that all the electrons revolve around. They are the same thing. The outer objects, electron or planets, momentum, their speed as they travel through space, becomes a circular movement once they are attracted to and attached to their central object, the sun, a star, or a nucleus, that movement is cyclic. In other words, it keeps orbiting around and around at a certain speed, repeating its cycle in a given period of time. Thus, a vibrational occurrence is created of cycles per something. Second, day, year, whatever. In the case of the Earth orbiting the Sun, it is a one cycle per year. In the case of other planets, it is faster or slower. In the case of atoms, it is a very, very fast and different for each atom. Taking this a step further, what if everything is orbiting something which is also orbiting something else? Then all of them function as one, and a complex vibrational pattern exists. They each link up with all other objects, becoming a part of their flow and one with them. In the entirety of the universe, all things are interconnected as one in this way. And the basis of all this is the universal pattern we see exemplified so perfectly in the atom or star system. It follows a reflective's universal law perfectly. This pattern flows in perfect harmony with universal order. I am beginning to understand, but I still don't understand the relationship it has to human relationships. What if this pattern represents the relationships of beings? What if each atom is a conscious being composed of soulmate beings? What if each solar system is a conscious being composed of soulmates being each planet and sun is a being in and of itself? That makes one being together? What if every being plays two roles, like both parent and child, at the same time? Surrendering to something and directing something. What if every star is both an outflowing positive polarity, directing positions to its planet, but also is like a planet to something else that it orbits? What if the planets are taking a receptive, negative polarity, surrendering posture to a sun, but are functioning like a sun to something else that orbits it or is affected by it? According to the teachings of the children and my personal realizations, all of the above is true. Many, many things can be learned and understood by contemplating the above concept. Contemplation of this pattern has guided the understandings of masters in all matters of universal and earthly life, and thus can also provide the contemplative seeker with profound answers. Truly understanding the meaning of this pattern and applying it to human life can prove the deepest understanding of the nature of men and women and male and female relationships. It is the perfect pattern of the harmonious interaction of polar opposites. Thus, with the contemplation, it can show us the way to have perfect relationships, helping us achieve perfectly harmonious interactions with our own soulmates and other humans. Beyond the five senses. Earlier, we said that for most people, the five senses are the only thing that allows them to be in touch with the world around them. A person who is universally conscious has transcended the separate self and perceives things with more than the five senses and experiences them directly without the filters. But you don't have to achieve universal consciousness to start perceiving more. Anyone can achieve greater perception if they work on it. When we expand our consciousness, we can access other means to perceive spectrums of vibration normally beyond human reach. We can sense other spectrums or planes if we transcend the physical limits and tune in to them. This takes place when there is an activity of evolutionary spiritual energy phenomenon called the kundalini. The kundalini lies dormant inside us all. When the kundalini becomes active, it traverses the spine, energizing nerve centers called plexus, and endocrine glands that are normally dormant or just performing on a lower vibratory level, maintaining normal physical body functions. And the activation of the kundalini causes the subsequent activation or awakening of 7 centers along the spine called chakras in some spiritual traditions. They are like new, previously unseen senses in a way. For instance, probably the most famous of the chakras is the pituitary, or third eye. When this is opened, it gives what has been called second sight. The new perceptional capability will vary depending on the degree of opening. A medium level opening will give one the ability to see the energy fields that surround all things. Much more can be perceived when it is fully opening and functioning in coordination with the other chakras. When the chakras are properly opened, you essentially exist on these different planes also. Here's not a very good allegory example. You could think of it kind of like this. You have 7 television sets, each with a different show. That is a different version of the same show about your life and the world around you playing on them. One is black and white, one is color, one lets you see previews of the future of upcoming shows. One lets you see everything like an X-ray machine. One lets you see the atoms in everything. One lets you see your life like a picture in a picture. TV showing 2 different channels with the same big picture, being the entire universe, and the little one in the corner being what's going on in your life at the time, etc., etc. But rather than just being a show for you to watch, they allow you to become part of the show and live in and interact with the show. And the kundalini is the power supply that initially turns these TVs on. TVs you have never seen before or knew existed. Caution. If the kundalini arises and opens chakras without proper preparation, guidance, or control, it is something like being a radio that has no tuner, no means of selecting and maintaining the desired frequency. This opens one up to receive any vibration erratically. Some cases of insanity or possession are a result of this occurrence. We caution you not to use any technique that forces kundalini unless you are under the guidance of a true teacher. We deal more with kundalini and related subjects in part 2 of this book. Okay, I'm going to stop here on page 286 at the part of spiritual stimulation of the five senses. This has been the reading of The Children of the Law of One and the Lost Teachings of Atlantis in Chapter 19, Part 2. Thank you once again for listening. Please share it if you feel that you found value in this. Subscribe. And above all, I thank you and thank yourself for taking the time to elevate yourself and understand the true nature of who you truly are and who we all truly are to make this world a better place that we all want to live in. I am sure of this. So until next time.